I'm here with Samantha Herberman from Werno Chappelle, and she is a behavioral therapist. Now, I think a lot of people don't know what a behavioral therapist is, because I only found out a few months ago. I was like, what? You're what? What do you do exactly? So can you tell us a little bit about what a behavioral therapist does?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm actually a board-certified behavior analyst, and really what that means is that I have a master's degree in applied disability studies, and I specialize in applied behavior analysis. I had a lot of supervision hours where I worked underneath another BCBA, or board certified behavior analyst.
Yeah.
And I also took a big test. It
basically
basically the idea is that we're talking about applied behavior analysis. So applied behavior analysis is basically taking behavior analysis as a science and applying it to socially significant behavior. And socially significant behavior is really easy to understand because it's basically something that you and I would both agree is important.
Okay.
So things like toilet training, really good example. Right. Tantrums, managing challenging behavior, another really good example. Following routines. The big piece also in terms of understanding applied behavior analysis is we're always basing our decisions in the data. So when I work with families and I work with children in my clinic, I always talk about, okay, well, what is the data set?
So it's more scientific.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So we're trying to change the behavior using the science of behavior analysis and actually looking at that to make changes in socially significant behavior.
So you specialize in children.
That's exactly it.
If I'm having trouble with my child's behavior, for example, if he's a little bit older, he's having tantrums all the time, or I can't get my kid to sit down and do their homework, or they're running wild in the supermarket, which we were just talking about on the weekend. So all of those behaviors that I can't seem to get control over, or I don't have those tools, right? I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm looking at my kids, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have control. I don't know what to do. So that's when I call you.
You're like, significant behavior, we both agree they're important.
They're very important.
That's it. We work together. So my goal is to find what works for you and your family. So it's not just looking at your child as an individual and looking at you as a family unit and say, okay, well, based on your child and your family, what's feasible and what's reasonable for you? What can you do that potentially would help to improve the situation? What will help decrease this behavior that you're really concerned about with your child, but increase other more appropriate ones? What we really want to see is that change in terms of, it's not just we're getting rid of this behavior that's terrible, they're running around the supermarket like crazy. But we also want to see, okay, well, what are we looking to increase instead? So what's another more appropriate alternative behavior? Maybe we go run at the park for 10 minutes before we go to the grocery store, we tire you out a little bit. And then we go to the grocery store and we're a little bit calmer.
So it's not only about eliminating the problematic behavior, it's introducing a new behavior that is appropriate.
That's exactly it, and gets the child the same thing. So that's the biggest, most important part.
And it's also a social thing, because, if your kid is going to school, maybe they're new to the school system and the teacher pulls you aside and says, listen, your kid is beating everybody up. Like, we have to figure out how we can stop this.
Again, something that we can work on is, okay, there's a lot of challenging behavior in school. What can we do to help support that child in that classroom in working with this child to help him or her be more successful?
Right. See, I love that. I love that whole concept of setting your kid up for success. And I think that a lot of parents, when they come to the point where they don't know what to do anymore, or they don't have the tools, they run and they see a psychologist, right? They're like, we need a psychologist, we need a child psychologist, and there's a lot of different feelings about going to see a child psychologist. A good resource is a behavioral therapist, because you come into the home and you assess the situation and you can figure out and give the parents tools on the spot, in the moment, while it's happening, how to help the situation and how to work through it as a family.
That's exactly it. So it's right there in the moment. We do a lot of parent feedback. So, okay, your child we're looking at your environment. Your child is really having a tough day. It's been a really tough afternoon. They're not being able to follow their schedule at home. We can walk you through, as it's happening, exactly what you need to do. So this doesn't seem to be working. How about we try it this way? What if you use these words instead of those words? What if you kind of stand over here instead of stand over there? Let's look at that and see, if we take some data, is that actually contributing for the change in the direction that we're looking for in the child's behavior?
See, I think if you ask me, like, every parent that has a baby in the hospital should go home with a behavioral therapist, because the kid doesn't come with a handbook. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to say, right? And as they get older, every stage brings on a new challenge. It's not like, oh, I figured it out. 6 months later, there's something else, right?
It can be really, really challenging. The nice thing about working with a behavior analyst is that the tools that we set up to give you are set up for long-term success. So my goal is not to be with you for the next 10 years of your child's life or your life. I really want to give you strategies that will work for an extended period of time, that once you actually understand them, you can apply them across a variety of circumstances and be more successful overall with your child and children in your household. So we want your whole household to function a little bit better.
Yeah. That's amazing, and I'm so excited that Sam is here talking to me, because there are so many areas I think that parents struggle with, and we are going to be doing a few series on different topics. The first one is going to be now that we're all back to school and we're so happy, but then the kids come home with homework and we actually have to get them to do it. We're going to also talk about how to set your kids up for success and how to set yourself up for success when you're trying to get your kids to do something. And the last and very important topic that we're going to talk about is tantrums, because nobody knows what to do with these tantrums. And when they're appropriate, when they're not appropriate, and how we should be reacting to them, which I think are all really important. So stay tuned.
We are talking about back to school fashion, and what better place to talk about it than from one of the fashion capitals of the world. So Brianne used to own a fashion